Hey guys, sorry I'm late, but last night I couldn't do the live because I went down to the police office to file a complaint against a man named Rudy Garcia for criminal acts against Napoli and its supporters. Because what are you doing changing Kvaratskhelia in the 88th minute and substituting him with Zerbin when you have Simeone and you have Lindstrom on the bench? So regarding the change that he made about Zerbin, he says, and I quote, "I have to give signals to my players, such as Elmas, who deserved to play, and Zerbin, who deserved to enter the field for a few minutes." My guy, Garcia, are you here to be someone's mental coach, or are you here to win games? He then also goes on to say that, guys, take a look at PSG and Bayern Munich. They also didn't win because it's super hard to win games before a Champions League match. Did you guys see Inter going easy on Milan before a Champions League match? Plus, our Champions League match is against Braga. Alright, not against Real Madrid. In theory, Genoa is a tougher opposition than Braga, so this is the game that you have to concentrate on the most. But even if you were to play against Real Madrid, you need to take one game at a time. And what are we to expect from this Napoli team when we do have to face Real Madrid in a few weeks' time? Are we expecting a 5-0 loss at home before that game? And finally, the other highlight of his press conference is that he said that Nathan was supposed to play, but he wanted to play him with Rahmani. With Rahmani not being fit enough to play both today and the Champions League game over the week, he decided to not change too many things, and he went with a more solid backline of Juan Jesus and Ostigard because they know each other from last year a bit more. So somehow Juan Jesus managed to yet again play 90 minutes for Napoli. But anyways, let's get into the match analysis, guys. What exactly went wrong with Napoli? And let's take a look at how Napoli started today's game. And as you can see here, 11 ghosts on the field started this game for Napoli. We were really not there today up until the 70th minute, and then Napoli players had a reaction in the last 20 minutes, partly because some of them actually care about this team, not because Garcia all of a sudden made this team play that much better because of his tactical genius. Alright, so we talked about Juan Jesus always being out of position, and here we are 3 minutes into the game. Genoa have a situation down their left-hand side, our right-hand side, and for some reason, Juan Jesus, our left-sided center back, finds himself in no man's land, which leaves Ostigard completely exposed to both the defender that he's marking and the person, the number 8, making the run. However, Ostigard, there's a reason why he probably hasn't played much with Spalletti and has not been playing much with Garcia as well. Whilst he is a very good defender, he's got some limitations playing out from the back. And you can see here that he doesn't really always know what to do with the ball. In this case, Di Lorenzo and Lobotka are both telling him to pass the ball to Juan Jesus to switch sides, because Juan Jesus, in theory, can then take the ball into the space and make something with that. Instead, he doesn't listen to either of those players. Instead, he passes the ball up to Di Lorenzo. And maybe that's the problem with Ostigard, is that his build-up play is not so good. And Lobotka is, I don't know why, just completely out of the equation. There's no room for Ostigard to pass him the ball there. He's completely out of the equation when it comes to setting Napoli up to go on the attack this year. Another thing that I'd like to point out, which is different from last year, is that last year, something that Spalletti did really well is that whenever we had the ball in dangerous crossing situations, we always had Osimhen obviously attacking the middle, Kvara, or whether it was Politano or Lozano, attacking the opposite flank of where the cross was coming in, and then we had one of the midfielders making a run into the front post. Instead here you've got Mario Rui trying to cross the ball, but both Zielinski and Anguissa are making the same run down the flank instead of towards the box. So we are basically eliminating a possible threat by making two players have the same run. I don't know if that was a mistake on their part or if Garcia wants that to happen for whatever reason, but clearly something's missing. And if you were to just hoof this ball up to Osimhen, I don't think we are worrying defenders enough with other players distracting them. Then later on in the first half, we have another case of Juan Jesus completely out of position, leaving a runner unmarked, and a huge gap is created between then Ostigard and Marui that the number 19 is running into. Juan Jesus, guys, is just not physically able to keep up with the pace of the modern game, guys. It's real worrying things that I'm seeing from this guy. And again, a few minutes later, this time he is in line with Ostigard, but he's too close to Ostigard and he doesn't pick up that there's a more imminent danger down on his left center back position, leaving that attacker completely free instead of being where the X should be and being tight on him, which means that Lobotka has to do something extraordinary to try to win that ball back, and luckily he does. But if this was a better attacking team, guys, this player would have received the ball within his first one or two touches, taken a shot, and it could have been a real problem for Napoli. Thankfully, guys, even though we are being run like an anarchy, we have some quality players in our team, such as Di Lorenzo, that makes very interesting runs down the middle, and also Zielinski, who's able to pick out some exquisite passes. And here's a situation where he breaks Genoa's midfield lines. Di Lorenzo gets in behind them, and then he is a bit unlucky to have his left foot shot deflected by a Genoa player. But this was the first sign of life that Napoli had after 30 minutes of play. Now, a little note on Kvara, guys. Today's game by him is the summary of how he's been for the last 6 or so months. Moments of absolute brilliance, such as this nutmeg, but then it doesn't really lead to that many concrete dangerous situations, or he gets doubled down by some other player or fouled in time before he can get into a more dangerous situation. He's definitely not being as effective as he was in the first 6 months. And then there was the situation at the end of the game where he had a reaction to being substituted by Garcia to take on Zerbin, which, guys, that was a fair enough reaction if you're a fan, but if you're a player, you have to maintain professionalism. There's clearly, guys, something bothering these players, whether it's Garcia, whether it's the lack of renewals that match their actual value and worth, because he's definitely worth more than 1 million a year. Something, guys, needs to change so that we can get Kvara back to his best. And I think this action by Kvara and Osimhen kind of sums up how lost we are at the moment. It's literally a 2v1 situation at this point. You've got 2 of the 12 players that have been nominated for FIFA World's Best, and you'd expect these guys to have the ability to score a goal here and the awareness of how to play with each other, and instead Osimhen doesn't really know what to do with the ball. Kvara doesn't really know what run to make, and in the end they make a meal out of it. And Osimhen tries to pass it to Kvara when the Genoa defense has already got him back into shape. Kvara's offside. The pass is not even in the direction that Kvara's heading towards. It was a complete mess, guys. And I think that is a worrying sign. When your 2 best players, 2 of what are meant to be the best players in the world, make a mistake like that, that's bad. All right, now let's get to Genoa's goal. Genoa are able to win this second ball by having 3 players attacking it aggressively, whereas we don't have any kind of aggression towards trying to win that ball. You see Anguissa and Lobotka just ball watching here. We were numerically always inferior to Genoa in the middle, and also with our aggression. Genoa get the ball, they play a nice little 1-2 around Anguissa and in between Anguissa and Lobotka, and Retegui then has a shot on target which gets saved quite nicely by Meret, but in the follow-up to that, there's a corner where Anguissa gets pushed off way too easily, I think, and Osimhen gets caught by surprise on his front post. The corner is deflected up to the second post where Juan Jesus loses his man, and it's an easy goal for Genoa, guys. Then Genoa, early in the second half, get another goal from another corner, this time played short, crossed in, where there's a confusion between Østigård and Meret. I wouldn't give either of them too much blame here, and no one is really marking that free Genoa player at the edge of the box. That's more what I have an issue with. He's allowed to control the ball, put it back into the middle, and Retegui is free to tap it in past Meret. And then, as we said, in the final 20 minutes, after Garcia makes a few Hail Mary changes and goes to a 4-2-3-1 formation, we have a reaction, guys. And Cajuste played very well, was involved in both goals. Raspadori played very well. Zielinski and Politano really played very well. Thanks to these four players that we had this reaction. And here, Zielinski, Cajuste, and Raspadori link up for a very great strike by Raspadori. Rifled that into the top left corner with his left foot, but finally we see some fast vertical play by Napoli, and then another situation here a few minutes later with an exquisite chip by Zielinski over the Genoa defense, with Politano smashing that with his left foot into the top right corner. Guys, this is a very, very difficult goal to score, and it's nice to see that at least Raspadori and Politano are responding present in this early half of the season. So guys, player ratings for this game. There are 4 players that I think are safe from criticism, and those are the 4 that we mentioned before: Zielinski, Politano, Raspadori, and Cajuste, who turned it up in the last 20 minutes of the game, with my man of the match being Politano, just because his goal, I think, was harder than Raspadori's, and it was the one that actually at least got us a point at the end. I know it wouldn't have been possible without Raspadori's, but still, it's the point that really saves us from over-the-top criticism, because, guys, this is not over-the-top criticism. The other players that had, I'm not going to say a good game, but they didn't have too many faults into this result, are Kvara, who at least showed some glimpses, Osimhen, who, to be fair, he didn't have anything to work with. Then you've got Lobotka, that not because of his own doing, he's not getting enough balls played to him. It's because of Garcia's system. And then you have Meret, Østigård, and Di Lorenzo, who I don't think were to blame for this performance. And actually, I think Østigård, apart from that incomprehension with Meret, was actually not too bad today in terms of defensively with his interceptions. The players that I think cost us the game or played badly are, well, Mauro Rui and Elmas didn't do anything today. I can't remember anything positive or even average about their performance. Elmas even getting a yellow card within the first 12 seconds. It's like, my guy, where is the Elmas that we saw in Macedonia versus Italy? Then Anguissa goes down way too easily in the box, and honestly, he's meant to be the guy that is motivating this team. He's supposed to be the engine of this team. If he doesn't run, the whole team doesn't run. We expected much better from Anguissa at the start of this season, so another disappointing result from him. And then the flop of the match, Juan Jesus, always out of position. I don't think he brings anything to this team, and I think makes other players feel insecure about what they have behind them. And then obviously Garcia with a 0 out of 10, because if it wasn't for Napoli's individual brilliance, we would have lost 2-0 against the newly promoted team, and his post-match declarations are also awful. Guys, if you've made it this far into the video, I appreciate you. Smash that like button and subscribe. Apologies for yesterday not being able to do the live. I will sort out that internet connection as soon as possible. Anyways, as always, Forza Napoli sempre. Ciao.